itself just so that we have access to it outside the actual constructor function, which is hello view. This constructor function gets exposed through module.exports to any other file that wants to include it. So that's how application window gets a hold of this object. Inside the constructor, we're going to be calling ti.ui.createView, which just creates a vanilla generic instance of a view, which this is in some sense a subclass of. Then we create a few labels. Now in Titanium, you start all these UI elements by giving an object with parameters that help initialize it. So the top parameter of this label will be set to 20, which is 20 pixels, and the text will be set to the string publisher. So we create two of those, one for publisher, one for subscriber, and I'll get into those in a little bit later. And also we create one of these activity indicators, which is basically a spinner that shows something is happening. And the first thing we're going to do is to create one of these. You can use the properties here and place it on the window using this add command, and then show it. And the reason we want to do that is because the first thing that we're going to be getting into with OpenTalk is how to connect. And we want to show one of these while connecting is still going on. Next, we're going to want to set up our API key for OpenTalk. So to do that, I'm actually just going to go into resources and create a new file. And the reason I'm putting it in a new file is because you will kind of want to keep this logic separated from what's happening inside your view. This is just a place to store configurations. So I'm going to call it config.js. And in here, I'm going to go ahead and paste some code from ahead of time. And basically, this is just an object that contains a couple properties that we're going to be able to look up. Again, we're exporting it so that other files can include this data. And I've gone ahead and generated an API key, but I just want to show you where I did that. If you go to opentalk.com or talkbox.com and click on docs, you're going to get to a page here where you can click right here to go get an API key. So just fill out this form, hit the button, and it'll be emailed to you with a secret. Then a really quick way to go ahead and generate a session is to use the generator, which on that same page, if you scroll down and click token generator, you'll get to this page. In here, you put in your API key and secret, and you get a session, and then you can also generate a token for that session. Now I already have one generated, so I'm just going to go ahead and use that. Just going to put in my session ID and use a token that I have. Now we're going to go actually get that data inside HelloView. So I'm going to go ahead and put one more line in here called var config equals require config. And now we have access to those variables. So the first thing I'm going to show you how to do with OpenTalk is how to actually connect to a session. And to do that, I'm just going to paste some code in here ahead of time and talk about what it does. So we're going to go ahead and grab a reference to the module, and then we're going to call the create session method on the OpenTalk module. This actual method takes a session ID inside a parameters object, just like how we created the views. So I'm going to get that from config.sessionID, which is what we just stored before. Then I'm actually going to call the connect method from that object that we got back, which I saved on self.session. And that takes the API key and the token. This should actually make that connection already, but how do we know that it's actually connected? For that, we actually want to add an event handler. So the event handler that I'm adding here is actually going to listen for the session connected event that the session object itself fires. And when that happens, we're going to call the session connected handler. The handler, all it does is remove that spinner from the view to give us a good indication that it's actually working. So I'm going to go ahead and compile this project for the simulator, and hopefully we get to see that the spinner goes away when it's done connecting. And there you have it. It actually did go away. That means we actually got a successful connection. The next thing I'm going to show you how to do with OpenTalk is to publish. Now, publishing is actually taking video from your own device, from one device, and sending it out to other users. One thing you need to know about publishing, though, is that it actually only works from a device, which means it won't work inside the simulator. So the first thing we need to do is to find out whether we're on a device or running in the simulator. And to do that, I'm going to add this little bit of code, which is going to add a true or false value called self.onDevice that we can check and look up. So the way that we actually do publishing is once we're connected, we can start doing it. So I'm going to paste in some of this code into the connected handler. and explain what it does. So I added this line here to make the layout vertical because I want to start laying out everything in my view in a top to down fashion. Next, I'm going to check if we're on device, that property that we just added, and if so, I'm going to say self.session.publish, and this actually returns to me a new object called a publisher. The publisher itself has another method on it called createView, which is just like the other view things that we implemented before, because we can give it properties like width, height, and where it should be positioned in the layout. That object is a publisher view. So what we want to do is to add that publisher label that we created up here in the constructor, as well as the publisher view that we just created onto the view. Now I'm going to try and compile this for the device. But the first time that we do this, we're actually going to find an error, and I'm going to show you how to get through that. So to compile on device, you're going to need to make sure that you have all the proper settings, and then you're going to go ahead and build. Now if you get to this error, this is actually normal on the first run. I'm going to show you how to do one way to get through this, and there's another way also outlined on the wiki. So first you want to find where those files are. So my project right now is in my Titanium Studio workspace in a folder called Hello World, and this build folder was just created. Inside this build folder you're going to have an Xcode project. I want you to open that Xcode project. Now inside this project, if you're in the file navigator, you just want to click on the project itself. Click on the first target and go to build settings. And you're going to see inside here that the build settings say ARMv6 and ARMv7. We actually can only compile for ARMv7. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch all of these out for ARMv7. Once that's done, I should just be able to build and go on the device that I have connected to this computer. And now you see me publishing. The next thing I want to show you how to do with OpenTalk is how to subscribe to a stream. Subscribing is actually when there's already a stream in the session and another device wants to connect and watch it. So this is how another person would view what I was publishing. Now to find out if there's a stream that I can subscribe to, I need to actually listen to another event on the session itself. So I'm going to go ahead and put in another event handler. This event handler is called Stream Created, and this event is called Stream Created, and all it's going to do is call the Stream Created handler. The Stream Created handler, which is down here, is going to actually implement the logic that I have. And what I want to know is if this stream is coming from my own device, I will then subscribe to it. So this first check right here is checking if the stream that's on the event is actually the same connection ID as my own connection to the session. And in that case, I'm going to go ahead and call subscribe, and I'm going to get back a subscriber object. Subscribe takes the actual stream object, which you can find on the event parameter. Then you're going to start a subscriber view in the same way that we create a publisher view, and add the label and the view to the screen. Now I'm going to go ahead and build and run this for the device. And now you should see me twice. Hello world.